people stops with me, it cannot happen. It can never happen. That is why we do what we do. That is why I do what I do. I am campaigning for the freedom of my people because of the persecution that we are facing. It's as simple as that. Nothing more, nothing less.
Thank you very much.
As it is right now, social media is on fire. The southeast of Nigeria is waiting. They are waiting to kind of confirm what next. What is it going to become of the southeast of Nigeria? What is going to become of Nnamdi Kanu? As you all know, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra is not the first and might not be the last to fight to finish in the hope that Nigeria will break apart and the southeast of Nigeria will get a place as a nation in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm talking about is not a joke. We've seen the likes of Nwanzurike, in fact, Ojuku, and many others who came forward pressing and pushing for separation, but all of it proved abortive. Apart from the civil war, as it is right now, any separatists will have to be careful because it doesn't matter if you are domiciled outside of Nigeria, you can be brought to Nigeria or jailed like Simon Ekpa in Finland. The detained Biafra nation agitator Nnamdi Kanu has asked the Court of Appeal in Abuja to stop the Federal High Court from delivering judgment in the terrorism charges brought against him by the federal government. As you all know, Nnamdi Kanu said he doesn't want any of his legal representative to stand and defend. No, I will do it myself. Now, the judge Omotosho said, Nnamdi Kanu, are you sure that you understand this is a criminal case and not a civil case? Do you understand the nitty-gritties of it? Well, your accusers, that's the federal government, they might work on your ignorance and take it as a lead to put you behind bars. Well, Nnamdi Kanu said, I understand. I simply need my lawyers as consultant, but they will not be representing me anymore. I have a lot to say, and I want to say it the way I wish to say it. Let the world see me that I, Nnamdi Kanu, stood in front of you, Judge Omotosho, or whoever, defending my right. Now, Nnamdi Kanu said that whatever it is that the government accused him, he did not commit it on the soil of Nigeria, neither did he do any of it in Africa. But let's say Nigeria. He said he did it outside of the shores of Nigeria. So your law states that whatever crime it is committed in Nigeria will be tried this way, but I didn't do it in Nigeria. Why are you holding me and locking me up and keeping me here? No, I don't want to be in prison. I don't want to be in custody of the DSS. And they said, well, all that you have done outside of the shores of Nigeria was targeted towards the government of Nigeria, and you are a Nigerian. The last time we checked your international passport, and also you instigated inside, you tried to stoke up flame of violence in Nigeria, and you made certain persons, people, commit certain crime. So therefore, you must be held accountable. Now, the judgment in the terrorism charges filed since 2015 has been scheduled for delivery on November 20 by Justice James Kolawole Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja. I'm kind of thinking that Nnamdi Kanu knows where this will end. They will sentence him. That is why Nnamdi Kanu, in a fresh motion on notice he has just filed, is praying that the Court of Appeal to stop the High Court from further proceeding in the charges against him. His new motion was predicated on the ground that he had filed a notice of appeal against the September 26 ruling of Justice Omotosho, which dismissed his no-case submission and ordered him to defend the terrorism allegation against him. Nnamdi Kanu, self-acclaimed leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, a proscribed group is contending that the Federal High Court was wrong in dismissing his no case submission without going through the jurisdictional and validity issues of the charges he raised. I'm sure you must have heard him times with that number saying, "You don't know the law. You don't know the law. How dare you think you can? You cannot bully me. You don't know the law. You don't know the law. Change this judge because he does not know the law. I know what I am saying. You don't know the law." Times without number, Nnamdi Kanu has presented his case, and it's a serious matter. I would not lie. It is a serious issue. It is not a joke. It is a case that needs serious and critical focus. Like, it is not a joke. It's a serious matter. Regardless of how light it might sound, we are talking of serious issues here. So, among others, he argued that the lower court was wrong in upholding the charges because the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act had been repealed, and therefore there was no valid charges against him. I repeat again, he said Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act has been repealed, and therefore there are no valid charges against me. Repealed means that a law, regulation, or rule has been officially cancelled and no longer valid. He went on to say that the constitutional issue of jurisdiction was not addressed by the judge in the considered ruling on his no case submission. Like I said, he said, "You do not have jurisdiction to try me on whatever it is you guys are presenting because I was not on the soil. I was not in Nigeria. So how dare you guys say what you claim I did will be tried?" No, the ground of the motion was that Justice Omotosho did not evaluate the evidence of the prosecution witness or witnesses and the cross-examination to determine whether the adduced evidence had been discredited. That is sought to call 23 witnesses only when the issue of jurisdiction had been determined, but which the court refused to allow, stating that such would be done in the final judgment. That the judge foreclosed his right to defend himself from the charges while refusing to rule on his objections to the validity of some of the counts in the charges. Kanu said that if his request to stop the judgment delivery is not granted by the Court of Appeal, he may be unlawfully convicted and sentenced to jail. So this seems to be the last straw. Like, Nnamdi Kanu is pressing and pushing somehow, some way to find a kind of opening for himself. He further feared that if the November 20 judgment is delivered, his appeal against the no case submission would become a mere academic exercise, and a fait accompli would therefore be foisted on the Court of Appeal. The Biafra Nation agitators submitted that neither he nor the Federal High Court would be prejudiced if the application is granted. Like, you guys look at it. In a 13-paragraph affidavit in support of the motion, Nnamdi Kanu raised the issue of disobedience to the Supreme Court order on the validity of the count 7 in the charges against him and the failure to apply the mandatory test under Section 303 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. According to him, the Supreme Court made it clear that count 7 was no longer an offense in Nigeria, having been allegedly repealed. So if it is no longer effective, how dare you guys, you cannot muscle that law over me. In the affidavit, he personally deposed to. He said that his pending appeal against the no case submission raised substantial, recondite, and constitutional issues of law. Well, it is serious. That's it. It is a serious matter. It's a serious issue here, a very serious one. So that's basically what it is. He specifically averred that counts 1 to 6 in the charges against him were predicated on a repealed statute, hence no valid charges against him. So how can you try to kind of muscle a law that is not valid on me? Meanwhile, no date has been fixed for the hearing of the motion on notice by the Court of Appeal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the plight of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, who was extraordinary. He was brought into Nigeria. It was an extraordinary rendition. That's what it's called. He was brought into Nigeria, and ever since then, he has been running from pillar to post to sort out, to help himself, to get himself out of the predicament that he has unfortunately found himself. I do not know what your thoughts are. I don't know what you think about it all. What do you think should become of Nnamdi Kanu? Nnamdi Kanu to appeal court. Stop the judge before he rules against me. Nnamdi Kanu is dragging the judge to appeal court before Judgment Day. It's a serious matter.